Welcome to the show, everyone. This is the full Nuff Mode. It's the round 5 recap of the AFL 2024 season. My name is Ben Reeve. Welcome. Now, we have moved full Nuff Mode to Wednesday. We're going to give it a shot around either a late morning or a lunchtime. That's probably we're going to see how that goes. See if we get a few people over their lunch break, maybe tuning in, having a bit of a look at what's going on. So what I want to do on full Nuff Mode is I want to go through every single game of the round that's just gone on. I'll have a look at some of the games for next round as well, and we'll talk about some of the issues, the big issues in the AFL right now. So without further ado, let's get going. So, first game, way back Thursday night, the Lions defeated the D's by 22 points at the MCG. Now, I picked Melbourne to win this game thinking there's no chance Melbourne lose this. They're looking really good. But unfortunately for my tipping at least, the Lions got up. Looks like they've steadied the ship a little bit after a not so impressive start to the season. They're starting to come good a little bit now. They had to win, really. It was Lachie Neale's 250th game. If they had lost that one, two-time Brownlow medalist. Don't get me started about last year's Brownlow, but two-time Brownlow medalist, he's 250th. You've got to win those ones. Charlie Cameron, following the game, was offered a one-match ban for a sling or a dumping tackle on Jake Lever from Melbourne. Appealed the decision at the tribunal on Tuesday night and got off. Thank you, Tribunal, for letting him off because we're playing them next week. Got off. Apparently he's a good bloke, kicked a few goals, and, good enough reason to not suspend the bloke. So I guess because he's got a good record, next time he goes up, it'll be the same thing. Hasn't been suspended before. Good bloke, never suspend the guy. Stupid. AFL should appeal. They won't. They'll move on. But another possible issue there in future around head knocks. What if Jake Lever sues the AFL later on? They didn't take action. Anyway, for the Ds, unfortunately, Christian Salem has done a nasty hammy. Came off pretty early with that and was subbed out of the game. So he looks like he won't be playing for a few weeks. We do have Melbourne within the next month. I think it's about 3 weeks away. So that whether he's back for that, who knows? The Ds will probably want him back because he's quite a handy player, Christian Salem, but unfortunately not for them. So Lions, they're now 10th on the ladder. Melbourne's still there. They've dropped one, but they're still going pretty well. The Friday night game was the Bombers versus the Bulldogs, and it was the Bombers by 29 points on Friday night. And 50,000 people at Marvel Stadium on Friday night. Pretty impressive, actually. It was the Bombers' second win against the Bulldogs in 11 meetings. Can you believe it? I did not think they were going to win this game. I just go with the stats. The stats tell me, the statistics will say you got to tip the Bulldogs when they play Bombers, but they've turned that upside down. The concerning thing out of this game for me was probably the Tom Liberatore situation where he collapsed to the ground. Hats off to Darcy Parish for looking after him during that moment. But he got up again and kept playing. And Luke Beveridge, coach of the Dogs, didn't think there was much to see there. Tripped over. He's had a sore foot and tripped over, apparently. Make sure you check out Paul. Paul put a video out in the Nuff of the Week, having a bit of a whinge about that, and fair enough too. Riley Sanders, not a big story, a bit of a beat up really, but the young fella Riley Sanders, second time he's been subbed out this year. Luke Beveridge is just an absolute moron. I don't know what he's doing to that club. He's trying to destroy that football club. He was predicted by Paul and myself to be the first coach to be sacked this year. I can see it happening. I can see it happening in the next 6 weeks. He's gone. So mark this one in your calendar, people. He's done. All right, so Saturday, we look at the Giants defeating the Saints by a point. Giants look like they had this one in the bag, but the Saints nearly pinched it in the final few minutes after kicking 6 goals on the trot, including a massive rush in those last couple of minutes there as well. But this game will probably be most remembered for even with the 1 point win, but most remembered for the injury, the horrible injury, the concussion to Sam Taylor from the Giants. It looked like he was having a seizure there on the ground. Pretty horrible stuff. Thankfully, the Channel 7 or Foxtel, whoever was showing it, decided to stop showing it because it's not something we all need to see. It's not very pretty at all. The Giants, they're going well. They're 5-0, but they are going to be missing quite a few players for the next game. Looks like Caniglio, Jake Kelly, and Briggs is going to miss with some injuries there as well. So they clearly Sam Taylor's going to miss as well. So they're going to have to. Hopefully they're reasonably deep. They should be. They've got all the number one draft picks. Hopefully they'll go okay. They've got a big game this week, though. We'll get to that shortly. We'll go through all the games from the round, and then we'll get to next week's games. Now, the other game, I think another game at Marvel Stadium was the Crows defeating the Blues by 2 points. Another game where you thought probably the Blues had this game wrapped up. We're celebrating at one point like they won the premiership. Good on you, Carlton. Still a long way to go. It's a long season, but I think this loss was coming for the Blues. They weren't flying. They were 4-0 at that point, but they were just getting over the line against some pretty average teams, really. So, I think that loss was due. Adelaide came back. There was 15 lead changes in this game. Absolutely crazy. 15 lead changes. Controversial score review in the third quarter there. Maybe that cost Carlton, possibly. But you got to play 4 quarters, Carlton, and one. If it comes down to a goal, then you can't win the game. Win the game by 5 goals. If you don't whinge about the result, these games shouldn't be coin flips. If you're good enough, you win them by 5 goals. Sam Walsh, first game back in a while after dealing with his back injuries. First game back in round 5. He was probably best on the field, really, one of the best on field. Absolutely incredible. But yes, Carlton, another couple injuries for them as well. So they're going to be without Sard and McGovern possibly for a few weeks, and they'll play the Cats in a couple of weeks. So they could be a bit short-handed. So we'll see how deep the Carlton list goes, whether they've got some other guys to come in and fill those spots. They'll be lacking a bit of run, though. Sard's probably the big one, really. I think they're going to miss. Now, Suns defeated the Hawks by 53 points at People First Stadium, formerly of Metricon Stadium, I think. Carrara, whatever you want to call it. It was really the Gold Coast youngsters, really. Jed Walters, absolute star. But, all those youngsters just dominated. They're miles ahead of Hawthorn in their rebuilding process. Hopefully, Hawthorn rebuild 10 times before they make it back to the finals. Hopefully it's a double-decade-long stretch for them. Hawks remain without a win in 2024. May it long continue. And the Suns, and Paul will be happy with this, the Suns are poised on the cusp of playing finals. Yes, it's round 5. We're coming into round 6. But Paul James, my co-host or member of the Hoops Crew Media Network, will be up and about on the Suns, looking like they're pushing for finals, looking okay. Hopefully they'll continue to improve as the year goes on. Now, the Saturday night game at Adelaide Oval, it was the Power defeating the Dockers by 3 points. Only just, if not for a Jason Francis, the Hornet, kicking a clutch goal late. It could have been the Dockers, but unfortunately not. The Dockers lose 2 on the trot now, so they've lost their way just a little bit. Port are looking pretty solid, looking very, very solid. 4-1 now. Should be backing themselves in for a top 4 finish if they can keep it going. A little bit of chat between Charlie Dixon and Ken Hinkley at one stage there in the match. I don't know what that meant. They looked like they're pretty animated at one point, but when you win, it's all good, I suppose. When you lose, we'll see what happens. See how that relationship pans out throughout the year. Charlie Dixon, he's a good player, but maybe he's not as good as he was a couple of years ago. And Ken Hinkley's trying his best to milk the last little bit out of him. Who knows? Now, if you watch the channel regularly, you probably would have seen the Chaps Chat Cats match recap of the Cats versus the Roos. Cats got the job done by 75 points there. And we did a post-game live show straight after that. Well, not straight after, a few hours after that as well, which went gangbusters on YouTube. So if you haven't watched post-game live before, make sure you check it out. But if it's not too late to also check out the match recap from the Chaps as well. And if you want to check out an extended version of that, there's always the Patreon channel option there as well. 12 straight wins against the Roos, Connor O'Sullivan's debut, and Reece Stanley's 200th game. Another game where the Cats celebrate a milestone. How many milestones is it going to be this year? It's a 5-0 start for the Cats, the first time since 2017 that we've gone 5-0. Now, the last game of the round was the Eagles defeating the Tigers. Yes, you heard that right. The Eagles won, defeating the Tigers by 39 points at Optus Stadium. First win of 2024 for the Eagles. Future Cat, Harley Reid. Yes, Future Cat, Harley Reid was awarded the Rising Star for round 5. It wasn't looking good early for the Eagles. They did concede the first 4 goals to the Tigers, and listening to it on the radio while I was driving around town, I thought, oh, God, here we go again. And then couldn't believe it after that. The Richmond resistance just gave way, and it was Eagles with party time. Jake Waterman, they're calling him the W train for West Coast, went nuts with 6 goals. Could have had more probably, but absolutely tore it up. He was incredible. So Collingwood and Sydney had the bye, so they didn't play, so they should be pretty fresh. Collingwood's bounced back a little bit, and they've had a bye as well, so they should be right to go. I think Nathan Murphy, it was, from Collingwood, who had the concussion issues, has just announced his retirement on the advice of medical professionals. Maybe not worth it with that concussion to keep pushing on and getting another one and doing some longer-term damage. So all the best to him in retirement. So we'll see how Sydney go. We'll get onto that in a sec. So that probably brings us to next week, round 6 already. We're in round 6 of the AFL season. Jeez, it goes quick. It was like we're about a quarter of the way through already now. So we've got the first game. We've got St Kilda in 12th versus the Bulldogs in 11th. It's a bit of a meh, kind of middling type game. Saints should be doing a lot better than 12th. I don't know. I think their supporters would be expecting a little bit more from them. But just like the Bulldogs as well, Luke Beveridge, some question marks around him. As I said earlier, I think could be looking at an early exit for him this year. I don't know who will step into the role, but I can almost guarantee you he's gone. Unless the Bulldogs do something miraculous, I don't see him surviving the season. If anything, I see him going halfway through. One of these teams is going to be in strife if they lose this game, though. It's not going to be great for whichever club drops this one. The next one is Adelaide in 14th versus Essendon, who are currently ninth. Another team, Essendon, knocking on the door of the finals. I don't know. I was more confident on the Bombers last year. I did pick them top 4 last year. I've dropped off them completely now. I don't know. I think they're just going to hover around the 8. Probably not do enough. They look exciting at times. They're a great team to watch. They're up and down and all over the shop. I don't see enough. Adelaide, you'd think would start to right the ship a little bit after a slow start to the year and start getting the wins. They're too good not to. I'd have to tip Adelaide on this one, really. Can't see it. Can't see the Bombers doing the job. Interstate trip, getting over there and beat. If they do, though, they're the real deal. So if they do, good on them. Now, Collingwood, they're better than 13th on the ladder. Collingwood versus Port Adelaide. This is a cracker game. I think this probably feels like another top 4 game, even though the ladder positions won't say that it is. But in terms of quality, I'm looking at this as a top 4 game. Possibly these two teams should be finishing around about that top 4 anyway. Collingwood off the break. Port just got away with the win, as I said earlier, over Freo. It's a tough one, this one. I really don't. It's clearly an interstate trip for Port. Can they go okay at the MCG? I think it's at the MCG. Can they travel, Port? If they win this one, I think the AFL world will start taking notice of Port Adelaide a little bit more, and more questions for Collingwood if they lose. Back to the drawing board for Pies. I don't know what that means, but it's another interesting game that has a lot of ramifications for the rest of the season potentially, especially with these teams most likely. Well, there's a good chance that they could meet in September as well if they both make it. Now, Carlton versus GWS. Carlton currently 6th on the ladder. Dropped a little bit after their loss to Adelaide. GWS 5 in a row. First in the ladder, absolutely flying. But as I said, lots of injuries. So we'll see what that means for them coming to this game. Can they cope? It is an interstate trip. Carlton, you'd think also a couple of injuries too, I guess. I don't know. I think I still got to pick Carlton on this one. I think, not that this is a footy tipping episode. Stay tuned for Rachel's one, but I'm just giving you my thoughts. But I'm still thinking Carlton probably will give GWS their first loss for the year, and it's not, wheels aren't falling off for GWS if they lose this game. Carlton's a good team, and it's an interstate trip. I don't know. Who are you tipping for this one? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments if you're watching live, or if you're watching this later on. Just check it in the comments as well. All good. And by the way, if you've got any questions as I'm going through the show this week or next week or whenever, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll get to those at the end of the show if there are any there. All right, so the next game, Brisbane. This is the big one. Well, the big one for me and for you. Most likely you're a Geelong supporter watching this, but Brisbane versus Geelong, 10th versus 2nd on the ladder. Second by a little bit of percentage, not too much. This feels like another top 4 game. It's at the Gabba. It's a Brisbane home game. Brisbane with Charlie Cameron. Thank you, Tribunal, for letting Charlie Cameron get off. Anyway, Brisbane versus Geelong. God, I think Geelong still favourite, especially with the way they've been able to manage their senior players in the last few weeks. We've got Danger coming back, you'd think. Hawkins coming back, you'd think. And Koladashny, yes, he's had an impressive season, so you would think he's earned the right to make an immediate recall. And I think probably Connor O'Sullivan, the young debutant from last week, would make way for him. You'd imagine a few young guys from the Cats are going to make way for this game at least. There'll be some other games. Well, it's a tough month for the Cats, so they're going to have to probably play some kids at some stage, but this one is pretty important, and this may be a team that, this is an 8-point game, really, as far as I'm concerned. We could be battling Brisbane for a top 4 spot, so it might make the difference between a 4th finish or a 5th or a 6th finish or something like that. So these are the ones important to win. It is bloody hard to win at the Gabba, though, but it'll probably top the Adelaide win over there if we can get this job done against Brisbane. They've started to turn the corner a little bit. I'm hoping the Cats will get it done. I can't get to the game. Hopefully you get to the game. Make sure you storm the field when Jezza kicks his 600th goal in the AFL. All right, now West Coast. Hang on, West Coast. Yes, West Coast versus Fremantle, the derby. I nearly got that wrong. West Coast, they've jumped up the ladder to 16th on the ladder, absolutely flying. 16th versus Fremantle are in 7th. As I said, Fremantle starting to show some signs. They're still competitive in every game, but don't know. I think we're going to start seeing Freo tumble down the ladder. Not tumble, but just slide gently in a small slope down that ladder. West Coast should lose this game. Clearly, come on. They're not. I know they beat Freo in most derbies, but not this one. Freo's got this one. They'll be there and about in the 8 still for another week. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. This isn't going to be as exciting as previous derbies. Who knows? Maybe it will be. Could surprise me. All right, this is a good one. Sydney versus Gold Coast, 4th versus 8th. Another top 8 clash. Love the top 8 clashes, and this feels like a genuine top 8. Look, maybe Gold Coast never made the finals, so whether they're there when the whips are cracking, who knows? I don't know. We'll see. But Sydney's had the week off. Gold Coast, not a massive interstate trip, really. It's more like a couple of hours down the highway. Yeah, look, I think you got to go Sydney on this one, don't you? I don't know. I'm not convinced on the Gold Coast. I'm still not convinced. I think they need to topple the Swans in order for me to start believing in them. They need to. They need a big win. Sydney really need to prove that they're back. They had a pretty off year last year, as did the Catters after that grand final. Are Sydney back? Gold Coast the real deal? I think we'll get some answers on this, or at least we'll get a little bit more information about these two teams after this game. So this is a cracking round. As I'm going through, I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to a lot of these games. The big one, though, the massive, the blockbuster which they've saved to the very end is North versus Hawthorn, 18th versus 17th on the ladder. And it's I don't hate North, but I can't wait for them to extend Hawthorn's unbeaten run in 2024. Wouldn't that be fantastic if the one team you think Hawthorn could have a chance at beating, they lose to, and it's their old coach as well, in Clarkson. Not that I like that bloke, but yeah, wouldn't that be funny if Hawthorn lost to North on the weekend? Let's hope it happens, everyone. Now, Melbourne and Richmond have got the bye this week, or Richmond probably need a bit of a break. I don't know. They've got some things to fix up at Richmond. Their injuries are starting to mount up a little bit, and don't know. I think it could be curtains for them. Who knows? Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's pretty much the wrap on next week. No big cat milestones, as I said, other than the Jeremy Cameron one. We'll see. I think he should get there. He only needs a couple of goals to get to the 600 there. Hopefully we get Eli Stars back. Hopefully The injury gods are still smiling on us. They've been smiling on us from up high all year round. Hopefully it continues. The VFL side got through unscathed as well. Hopefully we continue to push through season 2024 uninjured. That'd be fantastic if that could happen. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you to those on the live chat there. And hopefully we'll be back next. Well, we definitely will be back next Wednesday. I'll probably have Jake. Jake would normally be joining me on this one, but he's getting married on the weekend. So make sure you send a bit of love to Jake, co-host of Full Nuff Mode, and yeah, getting married on the next week. So thank you, everyone. If you haven't already, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. Check out the Patreon channel. It's free at the moment for 7-day trials for everyone if you're interested in seeing some of the stuff we got on there, especially Jake's VFL content there. Heaps and heaps of VFL stuff there if you want to know how the next generation, because they come in, they'll get a debut. There's a bunch of guys that still got a debut for us, and you want to know all about them. Jake's got all the word on that, so make sure you check that one out. Anyway, guys, that's me out. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one, and go Cats.